truths, direct or indirect, in their gross characteristics. To speak in more detail, craving, hatred, and pride born together with the first three wrong views and doubt involve delusion, vis-a-vis the four truths, in accordance with the situation. Even though the two innate wrong views and desire, pride, and ignorance associated with them are delusions about the truth of suffering, since they are subtle and difficult to eliminate, they are eliminated by the path of cultivation. Hatred and the others, desire, etc., generate delusion about specific matters and do not conflict with the contemplation of the truths, and therefore they are eliminated by the path of cultivation.
Even though the various passions all have a seen part, as an object, the substance on which they rest may or may not exist, so they are called accordingly passions with a supporting, causal basis, savastuka, and passions without a supporting, causal basis, avastuka. Even though their direct objects are all impure, their supporting substances may be pure, so passions are called passions with impure objects, or passions with pure objects. When a passion has as its object the stage 1 Isen, its seen part is similar to its supporting substance and is called a passion, having as its object a thing generated by speculation. When a passion has as its object the holy truths of cessation and path, as well as a stage other than that in which one is, it is called la passion, having as its object a name generated by speculation, because the seen part is not similar to its substance. Other topics are to be considered according to the same principles.
32. Secondary passions. We have discussed the characteristics of the 6 fundamental passions. What are the characteristics of the secondary passions? The verses of Vasubandhu say, the secondary passions are anger, hostility, dissimulation, vexation, envy, avarice, deceit, hypocrisy, with harmfulness and vanity, lack of conscience and shamelessness, agitation and torpor, unbelief and indolence, negligence and forgetfulness, distraction and incorrect knowing.
The treatise says that the secondary passions are so called because they are only certain states of the passions and of the nature of modalities of the passions. There are 3 kinds of these 20, i.e., the 10, beginning with anger are called small secondary passions because each originates separately. The 2, consisting of lack of conscience and shamelessness, are called medium secondary passions because they are found in all bad minds, and the 8, beginning with agitation, are called large secondary passions because they are found in all defiled minds. What is anger, Crota? Its nature is that of irritation toward a present object that does not benefit one. Its activity is that of obstructing non-anger and taking up the cudgel, that is, because someone who is angry often displays physical actions that are violent and bad. Its substance is part of hatred, because apart from hatred there is no character or function of anger.
What is hostility, Upanda? Its nature is that of non-abandonment of a strong resentment resulting from hatred for a prior wrong upon which one dwells. Its activity is that of obstructing non-hostility and intensifying vexation, because he who has strong hostility cannot be forgiving, and his vexation is always intensified. Its substance also is part of hatred, because apart from hatred there is no separate character or function of hostility. What is dissimulation, Raksa? Its nature is that of hiding one's own offenses out of fear of losing benefits or reputation. Its activity is that of obstructing non-dissimulation and intensifying the vexation of remorse, i.e., because he who dissimulates about offenses necessarily is vexed with remorse later and is not at peace.
There is an interpretation that this dissimulation is categorized as a part of delusion, because a treatise only says that it is a part of delusion, because one dissimulates about one's own offenses from not dreading the suffering to come. There is an interpretation that this dissimulation is a part of craving and delusion, because one dissimulates about one's own offenses also out of fear of losing benefits and reputation. The treatise only speaks of it as being a part of delusion in accordance with its gross and obvious characteristics, in the same way that it says that agitation is part of craving. However, it says that agitation is found in all defiled minds, and it cannot be taken as only a part of craving.
What is vexation, Pradesa? Its nature is that of burning rage toward a previous object of anger and hostility. Its activity is that of obstructing non-vexation and biting, that is, because whether the antipathetic object is past or present, the mind is enraged and one utters many violent, malicious words, and these fierce, vile, coarse words bite others, like serpents. This is also in substance a part of hatred, because apart from hatred there is no separate character or function of vexation. What is envy, Hsiia? Its nature is that of jealousy from seeking after one's own fame and fortune and not enduring a other's success. Its activity is that of obstructing non-envy and causing dissatisfaction and grief, that is, because he who is envious and jealous hears of or sees another's success and is deeply dissatisfied and sorrowful, and he finds no peace. This also in substance is a part of hatred, because apart from hatred there is no separate character or function of envy.
What is avarice, Mutsaria? Its nature is that of addiction to goods or the Dharma and being incapable of graciously letting go of them, to hiding them and being stingy. Its activity is that of obstructing non-avarice and causing pettiness and acquisitiveness, that is, because the mind of the person who is avaricious and stingy is hard and stingy, he amasses goods and the Dharma and cannot let go of them. This is in substance a part of craving and thirst, because apart from craving and thirst there is no separate character or function of avarice.
What is pasir, Sotya? Its nature is that of the deception of pretending to possess merits in order to gain benefits or reputation. Its activity is that of obstructing non-deceit and causing a wrong life, that is, because the mind of the deceitful one harbors strange schemes, he often exhibits a wrong life. This is in substance a part of craving and delusion, because apart from craving and delusion there is no separate character or function of deceit. What is hypocrisy, Maya? Its nature is that of crookedness by assuming other forms of behavior in order to deceive others. Its activity is that of obstructing non-deception and admonishment, that is, because in order to deceive others the hypocrite schemes and devises expedients, deviously taking advantage of the situation in order to seize the other's intentions or to hide his own faults, and he does not heed the admonishments of teachers and friends. This also is in substance a part of craving and delusion, because apart from craving and delusion there is no separate character or function of hypocrisy.
What is harmfulness, Vihimsta? Its nature is that of a mind that is uncompassionate and unkind toward sentient beings and injures them. Its activity is that of obstructing harmlessness and causing injury, that is, the harmer injures others. This also is in substance a part of hatred, because apart from hatred there is no separate character or function of harmfulness. The difference in characteristics of hatred and harmlessness should be explained in conformity with the good, mental characteristics that are their opposites. What is vanity, Mada? Its nature is that of intoxicated haughtiness that profoundly generates a defiled attachment to one's own grand affairs. Its activity is that of obstructing non-vanity and acting as a support for defilement, that is, a vain person produces and nourishes all defiled dharmas. This also is in substance a part of craving and thirst, because apart from craving there is no separate character or function of vanity.
What is lack of conscience, Arikya? Its nature is that of disregard for oneself and the Dharma and a disrespectful resistance to the virtuous and good. Its activity is that of obstructing conscience and nourishing evil, that is, because he who has no regard for himself or the Dharma has a disrespectful resistance to the virtuous and good and is unashamed of his transgressions, obstructs shame, and produces and nourishes various evil actions. What is shamelessness, Anapatrapia? Its nature is that of disregarding the world and exalting violence and evil. Its activity is that of obstructing shame and producing and nourishing evil actions, that is, because he who is without regard for the world exalts violence and evil and is unashamed of his transgressions, obstructs shame, and produces and nourishes various evil actions. Being unashamed of transgressions is the common characteristic of both lack of conscience and shamelessness, and for that